Morning, everybody. It's about time I picked up another video. It's been a little bit trying to get some time, and I'm doing a video on basically what the build is on the car and what the evolution of was it from when I bought it. I ended up buying this thing. I bought this thing completely stock from a guy in Phoenix. Had 33,000 miles on it, and it was a completely stock 2010 Grandsport. Loved the car. Didn't plan on modding it as much as I did. Kind of like we all do, I think. Nobody ends up planning on doing as much as they do, and they just keep going and going and going and going. So anyways, car started off stock, and the first thing I did was I did cam heads and tune on. I think it was on 91 at first. The shop that did it put one of their spec cams in it. Ended up getting from 380 to the wheel, ended up getting 475 to the wheel. I'll post the graph. And it was okay. The car ran pretty good. Still the 6-speed manual. We ended up doing the AEM intake. Had the little spec cam in there and the tune. The heads were supposed to be ported by advanced induction. I bought it from that shop as well, from a person who worked there. Car worked decent. Wanted a little bit more, so I ended up going and I wanted a flex fuel tune, and they quoted me a pretty high price to switch over to the tune. And people have been telling me, hey, go see Bill, go see Bill. So I finally went over to see Bill, talked to him a little bit, liked what he talked about. He's not a numbers salesman. He doesn't post up numbers. This is up to you if you want to tell people. So I appreciate the fact that he's not selling numbers. So we ended up going to Bill, getting the tune. I bought the flex fuel kit from DSX Tuning online out of Texas, I think, 300 bucks. Bill threw that in, and the LS9 injectors that I had, I bought those for 200 bucks used. Put them in the car. Ended up getting, well shoot, he charged me 100 bucks to throw the flex fuel kit on it and the injectors, and then the 550 for the tune, which is about standard, around $550 for a tune. He spent probably 3 hours on the dyno that first time. Went from 475 to 499.5 is what it ended up being on the dyno. So super happy with that. Car ran good, was doing really good, and of course, like everybody, I wanted more. So I talked to him a little bit about adding more power to it, what to do, and he said boost. Everybody says boost, and I'm thinking, well, let's do nitrous. So I ended up getting getting the kit from Nitrous Outlet. I got a standalone fuel system. Did 200 shot with the dual bottle double heater. You can actually see in here. You can see the screw holes there still. I'll get a mat there eventually to cover that up. We did the Nitrous Outlet double bottle setup. I liked it. I liked running nitrous. It was fun. It was, you know, a big hit here and there, but you could still do some racing, do some driving around without, and run it NA for a while. So did that. And it just got tiresome. Filling bottles, making sure bottle pressure was heated up, topping off the standalone. It was good power. It was right around 650, 680 to the wheels. So we did that for a little while, and kind of got tired of it. What I didn't know during that time, like I said in one of the other videos, one of the nitrous pulls, I had a tick afterwards. Went on for a couple minutes, and then the tick went away. So I thought, oh, no big deal, nothing's wrong with it. But it turned out I dropped a piece of the valve seat onto the piston, shot it out. And so we ended up going to the Novi 1500. I found a used kit online. Had to buy the couple of things to switch it around to the dry sump, because this thing has the dry sump on it. Ended up doing that. Tuned it. It was a great supercharger. I loved it. We spun it up quite a bit. I think from the factory, with the factory setup from ECS, it's already pushing it at the max. It's like 53,000. It's a little bit over 53,000 RPM. So with that setup, it was pushing at very peak power, way up top, you know, max. It was right around 850 horse. which was a lot for that little supercharger. 6 rib, had to keep that belt super tight, which when you're running that much through that belt, keeping it that tight, it's harder on the alternators, it's harder on the whole system, really running the single belt. So when we kept lifting the heads, because I had head bolts when I first got the cam done originally from that first shop. We did head bolts, the ARP ones, and I don't know if they were all torqued right or not, because it shouldn't have been lifting at, what was it, 12, 13, 14 PSI. People have held much longer than that. So anyways, just lifting the heads, pushing coolant back through the system out the side of the car. So we ended up pulling the heads off to do head studs and new gaskets, LS9 gaskets, and that's when we found that piece of valve seated fell on top of the piston and hit the head. I've been running it like that for 5,000 miles with boost, and it was holding up. But it was a decision, well, we have the heads off and everything, it's either build the motor or risk it and risk blowing up the block and the heads. So did the motor. Outlaw Race Engines on the west side did that, and super happy with what they did. They went through the heads, redid the valve seats, made sure everything was good in that, and then put Wiseco Extreme pistons in, and the TSP, the Texas Speed, their I-beam rods. So the forged internals are good. They should be good for about 1,200 is what they say people are running them to. But I'm still running stock block and stock crank. So that is pushing it anything really over 1,000. Well, during that time, found out I blew up my supercharger because we were overspending that thing a little bit. So we ended up, a buddy in town, which was fortunate for me, at Goodspeed, Joe over there, he has a good friend that is with ESS tuning, ESS Superchargers. Big in the Euro market. They do a lot with BMWs, they do stuff with Lamborghinis, they supercharge Audi TTs, Audi A8s, but ESS is looking at doing some more stuff local. So they've never ran a supercharger on a C6 before, and gave me a smoking deal on a new supercharger. It ended up being, I repaired the old 1500, sold that for the price of what they sold me the new ESS Supercharger for. So this thing is, it's pretty unbelievable for the size of it. It's about as big as the Novi 1500. The gear set, you can run a bigger pulley and spin a higher RPM because the gearing is different inside. So to spin the 1500 to 54, 55,000, you had at a 3.125 pulley. Well, to spin this supercharger to 70,000, which is rated for, you can run a 3.3 pulley. So I have a 10% overdrive lower, and then I have the 3.3 upper, and it ends up spinning this thing at 70,000 with my car going to 7,000 RPMs. We can run it up to 7,200 RPMs on the car, which spins the supercharger up to about 72, 73,000, which is okay for time to time. It can hold sustained 70,000, but to get it to 72,000, it's okay to go up to 75 for bursts. So we're okay there. But this supercharger, this is my ghetto rigged up because I wanted to drive it into work. I have the screen on it normally, and that's for racing. We're definitely going to restrict the boost with this thing. And what we ended up doing with this, when we built it, we ended up going with the direct drive setup from A&A. So that's their bracket on there, the TDI balancer. So their direct drive setup lets you run multiple belts without having to stress the whole system by tightening this thing and keeping it tight. Much easier to switch this. All we have to do is worry about the tensioner here and the tensioner down there, and just wrapping it around the lower pulley, the balancer, and the upper. So it makes it much, much easier, less stress on the system. And we also have the A&A double pumper external on here. Got to have lots of fuel. That thing's rated for 1,200 horse with 91. They said about 30% less with ethanol, which is, well, we run as ethanol on this. It's on flex fuel, but I just run ethanol. So with that and the Walbro 450 double pumper, and with dual meth nozzles, I got to clean that up eventually. We just kind of threw that on there. Run the DeWitt's radiator, which helps keep it much cooler, especially summertime. We're probably going to need that. We still need to work on the intercooler. That's still the factory stock ECS intercooler. Is supposed to be good to about 1,000 horse. We're overusing it, I think, right now. We have one blow-off valve on it, so I need to get a bigger intercooler and a double blow-off valve. But the car's plenty fast right now. I got to get used to it. have to run these welds all the time. I still have the stock ones up there. I'll probably end up running those. I'll run those time to time when I want to go out just for a cruise or road trip or something like that. But for right now, I have to run these things. These things are the Welds S77s. Bogart actually did an awesome job putting their bead lock on there. This thing's filthy right now, by the way, but I'm running those on the rear, and I'm running the 4.5 inch 17s on the front. Brake dust everywhere on those. So results are in. We got out of the Novi 1500, maxing that thing out, we got about 14 psi. You can get 16 out of it with the belt really tight, but that was overspinning it to like 56,000 RPM, and that hit it a couple times on accident. It wasn't tuned for that much, but obviously I was having a little bit of a belt slip with that small pulley. So, new ESS Supercharger, running that thing with 10% overdrive lower, 3.3 upper, which is, they geared it so that you can run the bigger pulley and not have to worry about belt slip as much. Excuse me. Running that thing at right around 4,500 RPMs, we already had 10-12 PSI. 5,100 RPMs, we're already at 15 PSI. And getting that thing up to about 6,900 RPMs, we actually saw 21.8 PSI on the dyno. Now, getting that thing out into the fresh air, obviously that was with the screen on it, not the filter. We didn't dyno it with the filter. I won't run it like that normally. It's not my daily, so I don't need to worry about that. With that supercharger, which is, I mean, you could look at it, it's a lot smaller and lighter than, say, a YSI or a Pro Charger, which are supposed to be putting out about those, the V7. They're supposed to be putting out about the same type of power. I don't know the CFMs on this. It's just kind of a before and after trial to see what it really does. So we are running around 21.8 PSI. It maxed at 1,000 horsepower, 1,004 I think, and about 888 foot-pounds of torque, pound-feet of torque, however you want to say it. So big power, big gains on this thing. I mean, it's night and day compared to the other one. It spins up faster, it hits hard, tons of power down low, and it just keeps pulling. I still have yet to wrap it out on the street. There's just not enough room, and I haven't ran anybody that I've had to run it up that high. I think I've seen 18, 19 PSI on the street. It will get probably, imagine, 23 PSI on the street because you just get more airflow. It's nice and cold here. The density altitude, the DA has been lower than I think I've ever seen in Phoenix lately, so we'll have to get it out and really open it up when I get some room and really show her what it's got. Show everybody what it's got. But that thing, I can't say enough about that supercharger. Thank you, ESS. AJ, this thing's amazing. And Joe, thank you again for hooking that thing up. I can't even say enough about this. I guess they're even coming out with a bigger one than this supercharger, which I can't even imagine. We're already pushing about where the block needs to be. We're only at 14 degrees timing, so lots of boost, not much timing. We're restricted by that intercooler. Look at the size of this thing. It's tiny. It is just a tiny intercooler, one blow-off valve. And we're pretty sure that's holding us back a little bit. So we're gonna end up throwing eventually a bigger supercharger on that. Hopefully I can get that in the next month or two, and another blow-off valve on it. I gotta see if I can find a local place either to custom build me one. If you guys know of one, if anybody watching knows of one and knows of a legit one at a good price, let me know. I would really appreciate it. I'll throw that thing on here and we'll rep that thing and show you what it can do. But we got lots of room on timing. We can move it up. It's pretty, like I said before, everybody says it's a safe tune, but it's pretty safe. We're not pushing a lot of timing. This is basically just a test run to see how this thing holds up. But it's awesome. Supercharger works good. So thank you for watching. I'm going to hopefully get out to Mexico this weekend and see how this thing is gonna handle some of the bigger cars. Hopefully some other guys. It's kind of hard to find cars to race, and just like any of these bigger horsepower cars, the more you're pushing, the more power, the more they break, the more you have to fix them. And it's not always a tuning thing for people. Some people, they get bad tunes, they get pushed, but a lot of times, you know, parts fail. People are gonna be pushing these things to where they're gonna find the weak points of their car. I'm still stock transmission, stock rear diff, stock axles, so I'm sure I'm gonna lose something here soon. Hopefully I get to use it a little bit more before I blow up the transmission. I imagine that they can't take that power for very long. I don't do digs very often. I'm gonna try, so we'll see what that does. I still have nitrous stuff plumbed into there. I still have nitrous plumbed into the car, and that was kind of the joke with Bill. We were gonna see how it did, and if I needed to run some nitrous on a button, I'd do that. But I don't think that's necessary. It's already, man, it's scary. I'll be honest, when it starts coming on and that power kicks in, I don't think I've seen the full power on the street. I know I haven't. I haven't seen full boost. There's just not enough room and I let out. So I think the next step for me, before we do anything else, I'm gonna look at putting a cage in. I need something in there, because obviously we know these vets, they're fiberglass. It's gonna come apart on me if I have a problem. So if you guys know any good either bolt-in or fab-in cages, I don't want to go full all the way through the dash and everything. I mean, I've already basically ruined this car for being a daily car or play. It's more of a race car now. But if you guys know of any cages that would be a good bolt-in assembly for this thing, please let me know. Leave a comment. I want something safe, obviously. I don't know how much they're going to run. I got to research this a lot and see. But I don't want something that's going to be crap. Obviously, my life is important to me. But thanks for watching. I appreciate it. We're going to get down to Mexico here hopefully this weekend. Show you what this thing is about. Do that. I'll do the draggy again. This time I'm gonna hammer 3.4, and I'm gonna get that thing down into the 4s. I'm pretty sure we can get this thing into the 4.8 for that. I'm gonna heat these tires up. Try it in a second gear start, and because it's really low RPM in second right now. I'll do that, and then see how the third one will work, and see if I can get that thing into the 4s. Check back. I'm definitely gonna make some more videos and get some more runs in here. Take care, guys.
Spinning it a little bit.